Standing by. The Terry and Ted podcast is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Get out of the big city and experience a construction zone-free test drive. There is such a thing.
It's the podcast with Terry and Ted.
All of a sudden we are French. Why are we French?
I'm not sure
Do
why.
not want to be.
I don't know why I did that. What the hell's the matter with me, Ted Bird?
I think you're a tad punchy.
Maybe I am a pad
tunchy.
I'm
yep.
a pad tunchy.
You are.
This particular episode of the podcast is brought to you by a lot of folks.
That's right.
And this particular episode of the podcast is just you and me.
And Poseidon, our producer Poseidon.
Sorry, Poseidon. I didn't mean to leave you out.
Oh, don't worry.
This the schedule for season 3 has been odd in that you and I haven't had a dance together. It's all been with company.
It has been with company,
Yes.
and I've had it with company. So we've thrown them out, and we're gonna have our own little dance.
It's true, eh? What they say about company. It's lovely to have people over, but after a while, you just like to sit around in your underwear and.
Johnny Cash has a song. Mm-hmm. And what does he say? Visitors and fish smell after 3 days.
Well, this is going to be a real rambling, gambling.
We're rambling guys.
Yeah.
Rambling. We should mention right off the hop that it's brought to you by, well, as Terry said, a number of sponsors, but our title sponsors are Jaguar Land Rover Laval. A couple of nights ago, Terry and I went out for dinner with Nino and Renato Di Cubelos, who are the proprietors of Jaguar Land Rover Laval. And Terry and I arrived in the courtesy vehicle that they've loaned us for the week, which is a beautiful Jaguar F-Pace 25T.
And we know they spoil us. They really do.
Oh, yeah.
They
Do
really
they ever.
spoil us.
And it was a bit of an F-Pace hootenanny. The Jaguar F-Pace, if you don't know, is Jaguar's SUV that's been on the market for, I guess, 5 years or so now. And so we show up in the 25T. Renato shows up in the I believe it's the F-Pace I, it's called. It's the electric. It's the all-electric version. Beautiful vehicle. And, of course, everything's going in that direction, right?
Yeah.
And then we're sitting there at dinner, and a Jaguar F-Pace SVR pulls in. That's the honkin' 550 horsepower version, and it had a Jaguar Land Rover Laval license plate frame on it. And so the guys are going, hey, you got that from us. Mm-hmm. And the guy gets out of his Jaguar SVR, and he comes over, and he goes, hey, it's Terry DeMonte, and hey, it's Ted Bird. He listens to Light 106.7.
Yes.
It was Joe Cavallero.
Wow.
Of Cavallero Deli fame.
Cavalleros, yeah.
Joe and Rosie.
Yeah.
So it was a small world moment brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Jaguar historically has not been known for SUVs. Like I say, they only got in that game a few years ago, but they do it right, boy. Those are beautiful, beautiful vehicles. Check them out in person in Laval or online at jaguarlaval.ca or landroverlaval.ca.
Just go get the nice welcome from that family-run business. Boy, what a lovely family they are. And I say this all the time. You know, if you've got like a young son or a young daughter who's interested in flashy cars, just go visit. They'd love to see you.
They'd love to show you around.
Yeah.
Take them next door to the McLaren showroom.
I'm not sure what was going on there the other night because we sat outside because it was a nice enough night to sit outside, but we weren't anywhere fancy. We were at Enzo Mecca Daka Duca.
Yeah, I can never. Anteco
Bagato, Pizziato.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Macadamian cookies.
That's the name of it. We were at Macadamian Cookies
on St. John's Road, and we were surrounded by beautiful cars. I don't know where all the nice cars came from.
Well, there was another, Nito and Renato said that's a so-and-so and so-and-so from United Auto Group or something like that, and one of them get into a Corvette and the other one get into a Porsche, and away they went.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, just to dispel the rumor that we were at some kind of fancy pants place, we were there having a pizza.
That's right. How do you like my Raggedy Andy pen?
I'd like to know what the hell's going on there.
Well, I got this from Victoria Lang. Victoria is the head of the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Quebec, and she came into the radio station one morning to promote one of their events, and she gave me this pen. And I happened to double book, not realizing that I double booked Victoria Lang from the Multiple Sclerosis Society, and Natalie Kamel from the Lakeshore General Hospital Foundation. And I knew Victoria was coming, but I had forgotten about Natalie. And so Natalie showed up and rang the doorbell at the radio station, and I went downstairs and I looked at her and I went, there's something different about Victoria. But I just played along. Hi, how are you? Come on in. And then I brought her upstairs, and we're sitting there. And the last time Victoria came to the radio station, she had brought me some key lime pie. And so I said to Natalie, did you bring me some key lime pie? And she looked at me like, is this guy drunk? What's wrong with this guy? And then the next thing you know, ding dong, it's Victoria. I double booked. And as just coincidentally, both very attractive women, so it completely looked like I did it on purpose.
But you didn't.
I did not.
Just need a personal assistant.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. All of that to say, that's where I got the.
I was going to ask you because it was sitting there, and I thought, what in blue blazes is that?
Funny looking thing.
Isn't that the crossword superstar from this morning?
That is. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That baby got the New York Times crossword puzzle done in record time. Well, I don't know about record time.
Yeah.
Somebody told me once that Bill Clinton does the New York Times crossword puzzle in 10 minutes.
No doubt. Yeah. I also
Pretty smart guy.
Yeah. He usually has. I think it's 5 books on his bedside table. He's reading like he
Good for him.
Jumps from one to another.
I can't read books. Well, I can.
Yeah.
I don't anymore because of this fucking thing. I can't get away from it.
Yeah. I've noticed that too.
I've got to leave it out of my room if I'm going to read a book, because as soon as it goes ping, then I'm on it. You know.
And I just want to recommend a book, and I just finished reading it because I've had the trouble that you've had. I thought, I'm retired now. I'm going to read all kinds of books. Yeah. And I have the same kind of attention span problem, because I think of the interweb and because of the phones. But I just finished reading a book about Jackie Kennedy and
Jackie is in the wife of JFK.
Correct. And the Secret Service man who was there that day in Dallas. Damn it! I can never. Why can't I remember his name?
Well, because he's a Secret Service guy, so it's a secret.
Yeah, but he's one of the most famous Secret Service guys in the world. And he was there the day the president was killed in Dallas. And he went on to, Clint Hill is his name.
Okay.
And he went on to protect Mrs. Kennedy after the president was killed in Dallas. He went on to protect her for a couple of more years. And he wrote a wonderful, wonderful book about his time with Mrs. Kennedy prior to Dallas, during Dallas, and then after Dallas. And it's a warm, wonderful memoir about his time with a woman he became very attached to, not romantically or anything, but it's a fascinating look back at history and the kind of job that the Secret Service had to do. And somehow, for some reason, it must be a really, really well-written book, and it is. I got through it. I just, it was one of those books where, I put it down and then went to sleep, and the next night I thought I want to get upstairs and read the book. Yeah. So that's my boring story.
My first vivid memory, the Kennedy assassination. I would have been 4 years old, and I remember how upset my parents were. I think that's why it stuck with me, because of their reaction to it.
Absolutely.
They were so shocked and upset by it.
World, if you've watched any of the documentaries, and I've watched all of them, and I was 5, I think, when it happened, and I was at home because I had the mumps. And I remember my mom was ironing, watching the soap opera, and this back in the day, this used to terrify me as a child. Suddenly the show that was on would stop, and because technology wasn't what it is today, the show would stop, and it would be a while before they got a slide up that said,
it's true, there'd be a few seconds of
and
dead
then
air.
It would be like, and you'd think, oh shit, what's happening? CBS Bulletin slide would go up, and then they would cut to, Walter Cronkite saying there's been a shooting in Dallas.
And Walter Cronkite cried.
Yes.
And I think this was probably the second bulletin. The first one was the shooting.
Yeah.
And then when he came back to confirm the death, his voice broke, which was very un-Walter Cronkite like, and just spoke to the enormity of that event.
Yeah, he wasn't sobbing.
No, but his voice cracked.
Yeah, and he got, he had to pause.
Yes.
He was doing what I like to refer to as the World War II cry.
Yeah, the World War II veterans cry.
Yeah, where you swallow.
All these years later, and how many years later is that now? Well, if I was 4 at the time and now I'm 30, that was 26 years ago. But I'm not 30. So nearly 60 years ago, are we still abiding by the lone gunman theory, or are we saying, you know what, he had a lot of enemies, maybe there's more to it than that?
Clint Hill has written a number of books, not just about the First Lady, the former First Lady, but he's also been he wrote a book, I think, called 5 Days in Dallas, and he subscribes to the lone gunman theory.
He does. He thinks it was Lee Harvey Oswald, and that's it.
Yeah. He said,
now, do you think that's him being a good Secret Service agent and towing the party line?
I don't, because he was a man, and his story is fascinating in itself, because if you've seen the film, the Zapruder film of Kennedy, the Kennedy assassination, he's the man jumping on the back of the car, hanging on while the car speeds away from the book depository, and he has to push Jackie Kennedy back in the car because she's trying to clamber out of the car. Yeah,
she's up, eh?
She was reaching back, I learned in the book I read, to grab a piece of the president's skull and some of his brain matter. And she had to push him, or he had to push her back into the car. And he lived a tortured life. The next 30 years, he replayed it in his mind almost every night.
Traumatized by it,
and said if he had just moved to jump on the car sooner, he could have blocked the third shot. So he subscribes to the fact that it was the lone gunman theory.
Right.
I don't know how we got onto that.
I don't either.
Well, because I read the book.
Yeah. Poseidon, do you have... What was your first memory? Do you have a specific, clear first memory? Because Poseidon's a little bit younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I've never thought about that. It's a very difficult
question. Yeah. Well, give it some thought. We can always come back to it. Yeah.
By the way, about the JFK thing, there was another conspiracy theory out there that conspiracy theory that he was shot by the driver.
I don't think so.
No. I don't know whose theory that is, but
they're crazy. Yeah,
that one doesn't work at all. No. Not even a little bit.
No.
I thought, Ted, we would plug the morning show that we do. We do. It's a Saturday morning affair. That airs from 9 to noon on the radio station where you're hosting the morning show from Monday to Friday.
On Light 106.7, CHSV, 106.7 FM, online at light1067.ca, on the iHeartRadio app, and on your smart speaker. It's a Hudson, Quebec radio station, but it serves primarily the Vaudreuil-Soulanges area, of which Hudson is a part, and also the Greater Montreal area. The signal doesn't reach everywhere through the Greater Montreal area, but with the interwebs, you can listen online, you can listen on your smart speaker, and Terry has come on board to do a Saturday morning show with me. Saturday morning with Terry and Ted from 9 to noon, and we have a whole lot of fun, and we got a whole lot of sponsors on board, too. And we're grateful for that. We have the Mersons, who sponsor this podcast as well, and who support us wherever we go. We've got Non Solo Pane, Boulangerie Non Solo Pane in Dorval, which is the best Italian food at the best price points that you're going to find anywhere on the West Island, if not anywhere else. Just a terrific spot. And a young couple, Claudia and Sebastiano, own and operate that place and do a terrific job. We've also got Felix and Norton cookies.
It was a big deal for me when Michael from Felix and Norton said he'd want to get in on that, because I started doing the morning show at Showme in 1984. In 1985, Michael started his cookie shop. And I remember the day that a sales guy came to me and said, hey, we got somebody that wants you to speak on their behalf. And I'd only been on the radio in Montreal for about a year at that point, and I was very excited that somebody thought enough of me that they would want me to do their commercials. And I said, who is it? He said, well, it's a guy and he's making cookies. And I was like, oh, Christ, really? I mean, come on. Anyway, I got the address and I went down to meet Michael, and I walked along Queen Mary where the very first store was, and it was my nose that led me to the shop. You could smell fresh baked cookies from down the block. And I went into the store and went downstairs to meet Michael, where he was like a wizard with all of these cookies he was creating. I never met a man more passionate about what he was doing. And we went upstairs and I took one bite and I thought, oh, yeah, I could tell people about this product. And I wasn't wrong, because here we are, how many years later?
Over 35 years later.
And when he found out that you and I were going to reunite, even just for Saturday morning, he said, that's a full circle moment. I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And now he's got a organization where you can buy the cookie dough in stores and take them home and cook them. And
you can send them like a dozen roses, which you did while you were here.
Yeah,
Terry sent cookies to his wife back home in Vancouver.
Yeah, it was a surprise package that turned up. You can do that too, by the way. You can just go to felixandnorton.ca. Plus, they have a very popular food truck that used to come out to our events when I was sitting in the chair at Showme. We would do parties, and Michael and Sue would come out with the Felix and Norton cookie truck. He bought an old truck in Portland, Oregon, and drove that truck from Oregon all the way back to Montreal. Perfect. And it's one of those old sort of delivery, style old delivery. I forget if it's a mail truck or a UPS truck.
So like a van sort of affair.
Yeah. And he drove it all the way back and got it all set up. And it's down at the old port all summer long if you're a cookie person. I just wanted people to know, because people ask me all the time, oh, you guys got back together, and did you move back here, and what's happening? And you couldn't stay away from radio, eh? And I want people to know that I'm retired. I am a retired man. I consider myself to be a retired man. These projects that I do with Ted, I do for fun, because Ted and I have been friends for a very, very long time. And people seem to love when we get together.
Well, I enjoy it. We always
I do too.
We always have a good time. We always have a laugh. It's the real deal. It's not. We're not making anything up, everybody.
No, I say all the time, it's whether there's microphones in front of us or not, we always have a good time. We have a lot of laughs. We have a lot of laughs in the car. Ted did a one-act play for us here the other day.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a moment that I can't stop laughing about.
I did my imitation of a professional football cornerback, and I showed them my backpedaling technique and went ass over tea kettle. And he's been laughing. He's been laughing about it for 3 days, hasn't he, Poseidon?
Yes.
He can't stop.
1 minute he was there telling us the story, and the next minute he was stumbling wildly backwards, crashing into doors and making this crashing sound. And I was sitting in the outer room, and all I saw were feet going up in the air. And but you were okay. That was
I wasn't hurt. Yeah, Poseidon had a great view because he was in the studio, and I went right past the door. Just arms.
You actually hit the door.
Yeah,
that's true.
You hit the door,
careened off the door,
and I think that might have saved you from a concussion because
possibly. Yeah,
he hit the door, so he didn't hit the floor first.
He hit the door kind of broke my fall a little bit. Yeah, it was a good look. Very dignified. Hey, speaking of laughing, we're gonna do a couple of rounds of the tweet sheet on this episode because we've had a couple of guests who the tweet sheet wouldn't have been a very good fit for them.
Yeah.
So.
Would have been awkward.
Yeah. So we've stockpiled them. You want to do one right here?
Sure. Why not?
But I have a question for you guys. Since you guys asked me, what are some of your first memories?
Yes.
That you've ever had.
That's interesting. I can't. It's hard to explain what a world-changing moment the Kennedy assassination was. Because it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first time that literally the whole world watched television together.
Oh, you're talking about... Okay, so I think I'm confused. Are you talking about like a personal early memory, or
It could be anything, but that's for me. That's my first vivid memory, not just of an event, but
how
of
old were
anything.
you guys?
I was 4.
Yeah, and I was 5.
Okay,
And
my first memory, sorry to cut you off, is actually I was 2 years old, and my mother brought me to Greece. So I don't remember much of the trip, but all I remember is at some point, because my mother loved motorcycles. When she was a kid, she used to ride them. Greece was different, from a very early age, kids would start doing activities. So she got back on a motorcycle after all these years, and she took off speeding. It was a sport bike. It was crazy fast, and I was crying. That's my first memory.
Really?
Yep.
That's
and everyone. Sorry.
At 2, that's really young.
Yeah, and everyone was, the reason why I remember this because all my family around me was laughing at the fact that I was crying. All I remember is the bike. The bike was red. It took off with my mother in it, and then my uncles and aunts' faces around me laughing. That's like when I remember it. That's the vision I have.
Oh,
that sounds traumatic.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe that might be why he remembers it.
Like the first time the family mocked me.
There you go. Yeah,
Seems to be,
and now you get routinely mocked by Mike and Pantelis.
No, but the joke's on my family is because who would have thought after all these years I'd grow up and mock them on podcasts?
Yeah, what goes around comes around. Eh?
Now, were we doing? We were about to do the
tweet sheet. That's it. Yeah. I was sitting there thinking, now what were we going to say?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, that's quite all right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, as you know, we don't stand on ceremony.
No, we don't.
So the tweet sheet is something that we do on the regular on the radio show, and the ones we can't do on the radio show, we bring in here, like this one from @Frovo, inventor of Silence of the Lambs. Hey, shut the fuck up, lambs. From @Arf Measures, John Lennon. He wear no shoe shine. He got toe jam football. He got monkey finger. He shoot Coca-Cola. Police sketch artist. What? I can't draw that. And here's another one from Frovo. Speech therapist. Okay, let's start with the alphabet. Scooby-Doo. Ray, riff, ruff, ree. Speech therapist in the intercom. Cancel all my appointments. Hey, that's funny stuff. I don't know where they come up with it. Where do you come up with it?
I don't know. Is there one? Oh, that's.
Do you want to do?
We're saving that one.
Yeah,
right?
we'll save it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we stockpiled a couple. Yeah. We do 3 per round, and we've got a couple around stockpiled. We can get back to those later on. Hey,
no. I know. Don't worry.
Yeah,
worry.
Okay.
There you go.
So covering the Terry and Ted Saturday morning thing,
yes,
I do in fact do that for the most part from British Columbia where I now live. Yeah. And some people have asked me, does that mean that I want to get back into radio? I couldn't stay away from radio, blah, blah, blah. None of that shit is true. I just like to have a little bit of fun. And what happens is on Thursdays or Fridays when we record the program, I go up the stairs and you and I kibitz around for an hour and we have some fun and people seem to like it.
They do, yeah.
And it's not because I couldn't stay away, blah, 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 whatever it is that I've seen online. And the other thing is that I leave Montreal because I hate Montreal. The answer to that is complicated. My wife has a job in British Columbia. My wife supported me for many years and helped me through my end of my career and had an opportunity in British Columbia. We both love it out there. And I am tired of the winter, tired of the parka, tired of the scraper, tired of the boots, tired of the slush, tired of the cones, tired of the traffic, tired of the detour, tired of the Rue Barré, tired of all of that, including, but not exclusively, any of those things, and sick and fucking tired of talking about language. I'm 64 years old, and this is my, if you include referendums, I don't know, my fifth or sixth go round with all of this bullshit about English people and how we're ruining everything and the French language is disappearing and everything else. And listen, I get it. I'm born and raised here. I understand the nuances and the depth of the concern. I understand it all. I was proud of what I thought was my ability to bridge both solitudes when I worked at Chaume. We had a lot of Francophone listeners. I got lovely write-ups in La Presse and salutations from, Serge Fiori, and my last song was a harmonium song. I understand all of it, but je suis fatigué. Pour moi, c'est assez. So I just wanted to go to support my wife and also have a little peace. And can I just tell you, we miss some people, really, we miss some people very, very much. Miss my family. And Christ, we miss the food. Oh, boy, the food.
Really, eh?
Yeah. And, make all the fat jokes you want. The food in British Columbia where we are is, it's a lot of chain restaurants and not a lot of passion. And I know, if anybody listens to this who's living in Vancouver, they're going to say, oh, you should go downtown and try this place and that place. But there is nothing, never will be anything like the restaurant and food scene here in Montreal.
Well, also, you don't live, pardon me, in central Vancouver, but even in and around Montreal, you can always find good restaurants. You name any borough of Montreal, and you can rattle off several good restaurants.
And every Anglo who's left, and believe me, I'm not the only guy who's bailed. There's been a lot of people who bailed over the years and have, gone to, I don't know, there's hundreds of thousands of ex-Montrealers in Ontario and Toronto. And I think that's part of what made Toronto the city it is today was all the people from Montreal that went there in the 70s. Yeah. And, there's lots and lots of ex-Montrealers out in British Columbia and, of course, Calgary. CP moved their office there in 1995. And they'll all tell you the same thing, that, there's nothing like a hot dog here. You just, it's a small, stupid thing. Everybody uses all beef wieners out there.
Yeah.
Pork ones are too small.
What's that?
Pork ones are too small.
Well, but the wieners here, I think, are a mixture. They're not all beef.
I thought they were just pig's anuses or something.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah.
It's, I think, shit that falls on the floor.
Yeah.
I was making a small dick joke, but okay.
But we get all excited about Forum's, well, not Forum anymore, but Bell Center Steamies. But isn't it just what's left?
It is, but there's something about a Quebec-built hot dog, whether it's Lester's or High Grade.
What's the place up near that you and your wife like in Pierrefonds? La Roulotte, is that what it's called?
La Roulotte, yeah. And the bun is built for the size of the wiener.
That sounded dirty too.
Yeah, okay, just was waiting for that.
Oh, I was thinking of something actual that but I have nothing on that one.
And as a matter of fact, I have marching orders to come home with some wieners from Lester's.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
eh?
My wife wants Lester's wieners so we can do proper Quebec hot dogs. There's one woman in New West, it's called New Westminster, just outside of Vancouver. She's been there for 22 years, and she talks like that, and she passe de poutine, and she makes the hot dogs. And every Saturday afternoon, you can't get near the place.
Is that right,
Yep.
eh?
And once in a while, we'll make a special trip. And she was the one who explained to us the hot dogs are not quite the same because of the all-beef wieners.
Okay. Let me say this about the French thing. I've lived here now for 37 years, and I cannot think of a single instance where anyone ever said to me or even intimated to me that I'm not welcome because I'm English. The media talks about it, the politicians talk about it, but I never experience it in my day-to-day life on the street. I get along just fine with everybody, and my French blows dead bears. When we came into the garage today, and what's the girl's name who sits at the garage booth?
Louise.
Louise, yeah,
She is lovely.
Oh God, I love her. And I came in and I said, we pulled up and I said, "Salut ma belle, c'est les deux anglophones avec la français qui est une catastrophe." And she loved it.
Ted's favorite explanation is his French is a catastrophe.
Mon français est une catastrophe.
But hold on, you've never had, let's say you speak in English at somewhere. It's never happened to you where they refuse to speak to you in English?
Well, I mean, I've had them. People respond to me in French when I spoke in English, but I've never had anyone say to me,
Listen,
fuck off English.
Yeah, you?
No, never. Yeah, actually,
me neither. Listen, it isn't. I didn't want to take us down the language path, but what it is, it's not that I don't understand it. I consider myself, I will say to people, "Je suis Québécois," but there are people here who don't consider me Québécois because I'm English, and because I was raised in English, and I would be what is referred to now as a historic Anglo. Because I was educated in English, I was born here, I was educated in English here. And it's not that I don't understand it. It's not that anybody was nasty to me. But it's just one of the things that I don't miss.
It's a pain in the ass.
Well,
like I say, the media,
the
it's omnipresent because of the media, and the media is fueled by the politicians.
Right.
But at street level, I just hardly ever experience. And why do we have to fucking label ourselves?
I don't know.
Why is he an allophone and we're historic anglophones and Louise is Québécois vieux souche?
Yeah.
Why?
And most, like you say, most people are like Louise, absolutely tickled. She's absolutely tickled that we speak our broken French.
She thinks my accent is sexy.
Yeah, So I wanted to clear that up. It's not, for sure. It's one of the things that we do not miss. And I may add, my wife is a francophone, Jessica Dion. She's born and raised francophone. Her grandparents are French. Her father doesn't speak English, and they don't like it either. They're not going anywhere because they're from the Laurentians, but they don't like it either. And it's an aspect. It's just I was here in '76. I was, my first selection was 76. I was here for the start of Bill 101. I was here for the first referendum. I was here for the second referendum. I was here. It's the ongoing thing. And Bill 96, is a lot of people are talking about it because I think it's going to do a lot of damage, but I don't live here anymore, so I don't have a dog in the fight.
I think they keep hammering on it just to keep us, just to keep people kind of separated.
Yeah,
so they can keep you preoccupied.
To divide.
Divide and conquer, right?
Yeah. And they'll kind of continue fucking you on every other aspect and shit.
So we're so busy talking about Bill 96 that we should be talking about the price of gas and the price of food and stuff like that.
Christ.
Yeah. Well, it's market conditions.
Well, it's COVID.
Yeah. That's my favorite topic. Yeah. We drove by this morning. We on the way here, we had another thing to do. And we drove by a gas station and the gas was $2.20. And then an hour and a half later when we came out, it was $2.23
at the same gas station.
Yeah, with the same gas that was in the ground at 9 o'clock was 3 cents more expensive at noon. And I said to Ted, "Well, this is market conditions."
Market conditions brought on by COVID, and of course the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Okay, let's get off the language train. I want you to tell your story about going to see Paul McCartney in Seattle and doing limo watch. This is such a great story.
All right. That's good because one of the things I wrote down was concert twats.
There you go. Concert twats.
Yes. I want to talk about people
who are twats at concerts?
The way they behave at concerts. Right. So,
what's a twat, by the way?
Well, a twat, in years gone by, a twat was to me, it was another term for the female genitalia.
Yes, it was.
But it can also be an asshole. You fucking twat.
Okay. Yeah. Like a cunt. Also.
Yes.
I think
in a word, yes.
I think the British love both those words, don't they?
The British can use that word the way that we use asshole.
Yeah.
But if we use that word, it's like...
Yeah.
For a while, it actually became one of my favorite words.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Twat?
No, the other one, the cunt.
Yeah. Because I think the British will say, "Oh, you stupid twat."
Do they use twat as well?
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel like they use twat more for men and cunt more for women.
Okay.
In the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just a hunch I'm going on.
It's funny how I get so uncomfortable. But I did. I wrote it down. I wrote down concert twats.
All right, time to talk about concert cunts with Terry. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed.
There's a feature we can get sponsored, eh? Oh, you want to sponsor? Excuse me?
That's the beauty of podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, my wife Jess has a very lovely history with Paul McCartney. She really does. She saw Paul McCartney for the first time in Toronto. I'm going to get the year wrong, but I think it was 2005. She went with her dad, and she's always been a Beatles fan. She saw McCartney and absolutely went crazy for the live performance of these songs that she had come to love. And she decided that one year she was going to go see Paul McCartney here at the Bell Center, and she was going to make a sign saying, "Paul, please sign my arm. I've already booked an artist for a tattoo." And she approached this very scientifically. She found the right color of marker for the sign based on the lights that were at the front of the stage. She experimented with this color of marker and that color of marker to see which one would reflect better in the light, so Paul would have a better chance of seeing it. And she booked the appointment, and the tattoo guy said, "Yeah, sure. Okay, good luck." Yeah. And she went to the show, and sure enough, McCartney's people saw the sign, grabbed her, and said, "Come with me," and took her to the side of the stage and said to her, "Stand here, and when I tell you to go, go," and pushed her on stage with Paul McCartney.
And where was this? What
Here
was the
at the Bell
venue?
Center.
The Bell Center, yeah.
And it's there's you can find the video on YouTube of her standing with Paul McCartney, giving Paul McCartney a hug, and her saying, Paul saying to her, "You sure your parents are okay with this?" Paul signs her arm, her forearm, and she's taken off stage, and she has to be escorted out of the building at the end of the show because everybody wants to see her arm. Everybody wants to ask her about the experience. She ended up on the front page of the Journal de Montréal the next morning. Aaron Rand called her, put her on the air at CFQR, and that's how she got into radio, and that's how I met her, and that inadvertently is maybe how we ended up getting married. I've got Paul McCartney to thank for that.
And what year was it that she got the tattoo?
I forget the year.
How was it stood up? Has she had to have it touched up? Or
no, it stood up great.
And where is it? It's on the inside of her arm?
It's what do you call this?
That's
it's here.
The forearm.
Yeah, it's the forearm, and it's on the underside of the forearm. And she does. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me telling the story, but she doesn't talk about it. She doesn't bring it up, and I know not to bring it up. She brings it up if she wants to bring it up, because it's a pretty fucking cool story.
Yeah, is the penmanship good? Can you tell it says Paul
excellent.
McCartney?
You absolutely can.
Like Jean Beliveau style.
Yeah,
Nice.
he was very, very deliberate with it.
Yeah.
And she, of course, had to drive home, and sleep with, I don't know if she went to bed or not, but the next morning she went to the tattoo guy who went, "God, you got it." And she got it tattooed, and there it stood. And that began her love of Paul McCartney and following Paul McCartney on tour. And she would go from town to town. This is before we met.
Right.
She would drive to Detroit and then drive to Wichita, drive to Cleveland, and then drive
that far away.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was a group of them that became friends, some from Chicago, some from Saskatchewan, and they called themselves Fans on the Run. And they would go from show to show to show, and they got to know the guys in the band. They got to know
the crew,
the security people, and whatever. And McCartney sets up what's called, not McCartney, but McCartney's people set up something called Limo Watch. And the Fans on the Run like to go to the venue in the afternoon And Paul arrives for sound check around 4:30. Like most artists, they got to go do sound check. So they're at the venue by 4:30, something like that. And I always poo-pooed it. I was always like, I don't need to go to limo watch. I've been to 1,000 shows, and I've been backstage, and blah, blah, blah. And we were in Seattle to see Paul McCartney for 2 nights at the Climate Pledge Arena. And the first night, Jess was going on her own because we could only get 1 ticket for that night. And I said to her, are you doing limo watch? And she said, yeah, of course I am. And I said, I think I want to come with you to limo watch this time. You do? I said, yeah, I do. I think I want to do this. I think this would be pretty cool. And I'm trying to be nonchalant about it. So around 3 o'clock, we wandered down to the Climate Pledge Arena. And they've set up a little barricade because Paul McCartney has his own security people, completely understandable. And they set up a little barricade, and they tell you Paul's vehicle is going to approach from that direction, and he's going to turn in here and go into the garage. So all of the fans are gathered, and they all know each other, and they haven't seen each other because of COVID. So they're talking and chatting, and everybody's chatting. And then suddenly, at around 4:10, more people appear. You know, there's a golf cart shows up, and then 4 security people jump off that golf cart. Another golf cart arrives, and then another bunch of security people. And I hear McCartney's people say, he's 5 minutes out. And I start to get a little excited. I think, oh, shit, Paul McCartney's, he's 5 minutes away. This is cool. And I'm standing in a distance from, I'm standing behind my wife because I want Jess to, you know, she has a routine for limo watch. And Paul McCartney deliberately slows down the vehicle and rolls down the window because he knows people are there and he wants to say hi to them. And he's Paul McCartney. He doesn't, you know, a lot of lesser bands drive in an unmarked van and drive by people that are waving and trying. Now, he doesn't stop for autographs or anything. And again, I think that's a security issue. But he slows down the vehicle, he rolls down the window, and he's very deliberate of pointing to people and waving. So I'm watching her, and I think, I'm going to film this. And the security people say, here he comes. And he travels in I think it's an Escalade. And the black Escalade approaches, slows down, and the window comes down, and there's Paul McCartney leaning out the window waving, and all of the people are going crazy. And my heart starts to beat fast. And I'm taking a video from behind of my wife frantically waving at Paul and people screaming at him. And the car makes the turn into the venue, and I go running over to the fence. And the car slows down to go down the driveway, and I don't notice it, but my phone is on autofocus, and the picture begins to blur, but he gets right in front of me, and I begin doing this. Paul! 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 And he points at me, and he waves, and I know it's only in my mind, but for me, I think he kind of looked at me like, calm twist. Like, calm down.
It's Terry DeMonte.
You're a grown-ass man. Like, calm down. And I had to sit
So
down.
are you exaggerating your reaction? Or were you actually, really,
I
eh?
was like, Paul! And I have to admit, I had to sit down. I had to calm myself.
Compose yourself, sir.
Yes, get a hold of yourself, pal. Because I think, because it's McCartney. You know, my parents gave me a plastic record player from Eaton's and a copy of She Loves You when I was 6, I think. And I became a Beatles fan. I collected Beatles cards. And I still say that purchase of that 45 led me to become interested in the radio. I think the Beatles sort of steered me towards music, and you know, and I remember being a kid and being fascinated by their reaction of when people heard songs on the radio. You know, I remember 1964, 1965, girls would scream.
Oh, yeah.
They would run up the kitchen hallway and turn the radio up as loud as they could and scream when they heard a Beatles song. And I remember being a kid thinking, that's interesting what that little box on the kitchen counter does. I think that's how I ended up in radio and had the career that I had. And there's something, I don't know, there's something magical about a Beatle.
Well, listen, your reaction speaks to, the fact that he's Paul McCartney, one of the biggest celebrities in the world. I mean, how many people are more famous than Paul McCartney? Not too many.
Jess and I both agree that we think he's the most famous guy on the planet, other than the Pope or, the
Queen.
The Queen.
Yeah. And B, I think just as much you get excited by what he represents to you and your life. Like he represents so much in your lifetime.
Yes.
It's not just who he is, it's what he represents.
And I think everybody in the crowd feels the same way. Everybody has a song. Like when he begins to play some of the songs from over the years, when he sings the opening note of Hey Jude, I do the.
I was going to ask you if you cried.
Yeah, well, yeah. I get a lump in my throat. I think because I thought, I was convinced. I remember, the Beatles broke up, and I thought that's it. No one's ever going to hear those songs live, and I know it's not the Beatles. I get it, but it's still the guy who wrote the tunes playing them live. And for me, it's like phenomenal. I mean, I can't. My wife's seen him 38 times. I don't think I could do that. But it's an experience like no other.
Well, you know what? His solo catalog's awfully impressive too.
Yes,
Wings has a really great catalog. John Lennon had a great. I mean, John Lennon did Imagine after the Beatles, right?
Yeah,
that's probably John Lennon's signature song, and it's not a Beatles song.
Yeah,
George Harrison was a prolific. Songwriter and collaborator as well, as a solo artist. And the same with Ringo. Great collaborator.
I think that's a big part of it, Ted. I think Lennon and McCartney together, that's lightning in a bottle that we'll never see again. Yeah. And I also think that part of it is the what if. You see McCartney, who's going to be 80 this month. We're recording this in June. He's going to be 80 this month. And you see him live and he's timeless. The voice, the voice isn't as strong as it was when he was in his 50s, of course, but the voice is still there. The enthusiasm is still there. And he's like this maestro of joy and positivity when you go see him.
Well, listen. Sorry, go ahead.
And in this particular concert tour that he's doing now, he duets with Lennon. He got Peter Jackson, the man who put the Got Back film together, and that film had the same kind of reaction. You had the same kind of reaction to that film that I did. Yeah. Peter Jackson cut out a version of John singing a song from Let It Be, and Paul McCartney turns his back to the audience and duets with Lennon. And you could see him get emotional, and I got emotional, because it spurs on the questions of what could have been had Lennon not been taken from us. What could have been, all of the music that was left on the table when that insect took him. Yeah. You can't help but think about what could have been, I think.
Yeah. You were talking about, why do you still do this if you're retired? Why does McCartney still sing?
Yeah.
Does he need the money? No. It's because it's what he loves to do.
It's just the joy of it. Yeah, it's the absolute joy of it. And by the way, if you eat, you don't have to. Would you agree with this? You don't have to be a Beatles fan to like Get Back.
Oh Christ, no. No, it's history.
Jesus Christ.
It's popular culture history.
Is it ever?
Yeah. And great insights. I think my two biggest takeaways from that were, A, how much McCartney was driving the bus at that point, because John was all Yoko all the time. Yeah. She was just leading him around by the nose. And so McCartney, and what a great leader he was. Oh. What a leader. And there's one scene where he tears up, where he knows, where it becomes apparent that the band is coming to an end.
Yeah.
And I think he says, and then there were two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing I took away from that was the way that Ringo looked at Paul McCartney, the way that a dog that really loves his master looks at his. And I don't mean to demean Ringo by saying, oh, Ringo's just a dog.
No.
He adores Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
He just adores him.
And what the other thing that's great about this movie is you're watching songs get born. Like
you're watching it in real time.
Yeah, you're watching an era before these songs existed. And there's a point where Paul is playing, I think it's Let It Be. He's trying to figure it out on the piano. And Jess and I found ourselves yelling at the screen, no, it goes this way. But you're actually watching, the birth of that song, which is really, really spectacular.
Yeah. So will you do another limo watch at some point?
You know what? I think I would.
Yeah?
Yeah, Jess, of course, she would have loved to have gotten to see him on this current tour, which took him to Oakland, Los Angeles, Fort Worth, Knoxville, Syracuse. There's a bunch of dates. But because she's working, it's hard for her to get away. And she's really, really hoping that in the fall he's going to announce some dates. And maybe if we're lucky, there'll be some Canadian dates, and we can go back on the road, and I can go back to Limo Watch.
We better do some business.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about Vozwin, our new sponsor. Vozwin is an engineering company and a consulting company. And, I don't know about you, but when before we met Sean Smith from Vozwin, if you told me, what do engineers do? Well, they build bridges and roads and that kind of thing and machines and stuff like that. What Vozwin does is they want to know what your idea is. Do you have an invention? Do you have an existing product or service? Do you want to innovate something? And does it have an engineering component? If so, they can help you. For example, let's say you want to go to a Paul McCartney concert and get his attention with a sign. How do you make a sign that, with the lighting considerations and everything, that's something that they could do? Yeah, that's exactly
right.
Yeah, they could engineer a solution for you to get Paul McCartney's attention. They do industrial engineering and designing, mechanical engineering and designing, electrical engineering and designing, and software development. If you have any kind of a product or service or idea, and you need help along those lines, and they also know the process in terms of the inventor process, getting you through. How is it you put it, Ter? From getting the idea
out of your head and into your hands.
There you go.
Yeah.
They know how to do that. Check them out at Vozwin.com. And our thanks to Sean Smith for coming on board as a sponsor. In a million years, we didn't think we'd have an engineering firm sponsoring the podcast.
Get a load of us, eh, Poseidon? Yeah. We're engineers now.
Yeah. You got any invention ideas, Poseidon?
None at the moment.
And now back to concert twats.
Oh, yeah. What about the twats? Now, were there twats at the McCartney show?
Nah. Well, McCartney's audience is by and large an older audience, so they're a little better behaved. Although there's the person, I was next to a person who thought McCartney was talking just to them. McCartney was telling a story, because he tells some great stories between songs, that I would like to hear.
Oh, no.
And the woman next to me was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely, yeah." And I wanted to say, he's not talking to you.
Pipe down, Grandma.
And he also can't hear you.
Yeah.
So stop that. And we noticed that people's behavior is becoming bolder, and that a couple of weeks later, we went to the. What's the big arena in Vancouver? Is it the Rogers Centre? Is that what it's called?
Something like that, yeah.
Jess is going to kill me.
Where the Canucks play.
Where the Canucks play. We went there to see Chris Stapleton. Chris Stapleton is probably one of the most, it's one of the most sought-after country music concert tickets this year and last year and the year before. He's a giant talent. I didn't know anything about him. My wife said we're going to see him, and I absolutely loved it. But God, it's people weren't really there for the concert. They were there for the beer. And I get it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? You paid your money. You can do whatever you want. But most people in our row missed most of the show waiting in line for beer. and doing the excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. Promise this is the last time. I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure the beer was very reasonably priced.
Yeah,
as well.
very reasonably priced, and the beer, of course, triggers the bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
So you're missing a lot of the show, and there's a lot of people that are falling down drunk, trying to start fights, and I find that people kind of live in their own little bubble now. They don't know how to behave as a group.
I wonder if that's a COVID thing because we spent so much time
That's what I was
isolated and
wondering.
alone. We don't know how to socialize
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, I don't know,
But
but that's no excuse.
no,
Oh, sorry.
I thought you were going to say something.
I was,
heard
but
your
I
lips
didn't want to
snap.
interrupt. I
No,
always feel
please
bad.
go.
Oh,
Yes.
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the isolation and the people are getting more bolder. They kind of don't give a fuck. People, they've been through a lot and they're like, fuck,
Yeah, but-
kind of like, fuck this, fuck that guy.
Yeah, but-
I don't give a fuck. You know?
There's a lot of that happening for sure.
But I see that behavior and I think, well, what are you, raised by wolves? Like, who taught you to behave that way in public? I saw on TikTok a guy posted, a Calgary Flames fan posted a video of him harassing an Edmonton Oiler who was staying in his hotel while
one of the players.
Yes, while filming the whole thing, and like calling him out and razzing him in the elevator, and then following him up the hallway. And the I don't know who the Calgary Flame was or the Oiler was, but he had the good sense to ignore this knucklehead. And I thought, not only do you don't know how to behave in public, you've recorded it and proudly posted it to show everybody
what an
arsehole you are.
Yeah.
Like, when did that start? Who made that?
Well, you know what?
okay?
Social media might have a lot to do with that because
social media has, and they've done studies already. Social media has raised the level of narcissism to very extreme levels.
Yeah.
Because now, also, I don't remember who it was. I think Guido was reminding me. Now, like, you know how there was always, like in the movie business, I don't know how to explain this properly. So people were always audience members. Well, now for the first time in history, people are no longer just audience members. They're also their very own content.
yeah, they can
creators.
be the show.
So exactly. So when you give that power to someone, and this is my movie of my life, ego kicks in, and I think that's why narcissism, all that, it's like all this combination. Like I said, I know I just said like a lot of stuff, and
No, it makes perfect sense, and I know exactly what you're saying. And
I just didn't
and
say
you're
it
right.
properly.
You're absolutely right. People who want to be the center of attention now can be the center of attention.
And this is society's fault also, because we've shown that being the center of attention equals success.
Yeah.
So I've fallen for this trap as well when I was younger, you know. Also, that guy is way more well behaved, because I don't care what position I was, I would have, especially being followed.
Yes.
He would have gone.
Yeah, that's great discipline.
Yeah,
boy.
that's
great
what
discipline.
that's what I thought. I thought this guy is really well disciplined. You know, being in the company of a complete social moron in terms of how you behave and politesse and polite behavior. You know, not even polite behavior, just decent behavior. I was on an airplane to come here on Friday, whatever day it was. And it wasn't a good day. In terms of flying, it wasn't a good day. The plane was late leaving, and they had, their old bullshit excuse of, we're just a couple of bags to get on board and security, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't care because, we're going to get there when we get there. I just want to get there safely. And when we landed in Montreal, there was no gate. And we got the old, we're trying to get, the captain is, whatever his excuses were. And there were people on the plane that had connections to make. And we were on the tarmac for an hour and 15 minutes waiting for a gate. And the crew had to keep saying to people, we are not at a gate. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened, because those are the rules.
Where did they think they were going to go?
Where did they think they were going to go? And a woman got up with her bag and her stupid neck pillow and her backpack, and she charged up the hallway, and the flight attendants who were seated and buckled in said, return to your seat. And the woman said, I'm not fucking going anywhere. And I guess they thought, we could call the cop. Because if you...
I was going to say, she's lucky because...
I think
they
so,
don't,
too.
Yeah, on aircraft...
Yeah, they don't put up with it.
Not a bit.
And I thought to myself, and, she looked proud of herself that she was going to behave like an arsehole, not pay attention to the crew. Hey, we were all fed up.
Yeah.
Everybody was fed up. But what happens if 200 plus people on the airplane decide they want to do what they want to do when they want to do it? That's not the way society works.
Well, even if they do, where are they going to go?
Well, that's what I wanted to say to her. Bitch, where do you think you're going?
You going to take out that emergency exit and
Yeah,
just
you're
jump
gonna
down onto the fucking
jump
runway?
onto the tarmac, and also behave. Like say to the woman, I'm so frustrated. I don't want to return to my seat or whatever. But I'm not fucking going anywhere. Like she was very proud of it. I don't know. I think people are losing their.
I think also because we didn't have this shit like this has always been going on, in my opinion. Obviously not to this intensity. First thing, also everything's recorded nowadays, so we see it much more often.
I don't want to go down this path, but I'm going to say something because I'm thinking it. I blame it on Mr. Trump. Because when Trump came on the scene, he made that kind of behavior normal. And everybody thought, well, he's doing it.
He's the president.
He's doing it. Even before he was president, right? I kicked the shit out of the ball. And a lot of, you know what happened in the old days. And he presented that kind of, blustery behavior. And I think people have started to adopt it. And you think it's okay to say, I'm not fucking going anywhere? I don't know. Just a theory. How is everybody?
Good. How are you doing?
I disagree with this theory, by the way. I completely disagree.
You don't think it had anything to do with it?
People have been like that since forever. There's always...
Not in public. Not in public. People who ran for public office were expected to behave to keep things. They were expected not to say certain things and not to behave a certain way. They could do that kind of thing behind closed doors, but there was a certain decorum. Would you not agree, Ted? That came with public behavior.
But I think it's because also in public, before, if you acted a certain way, you'd get smacked around eventually. Do you understand? Now you can't do that anymore. You can't, so if someone's being obnoxious like that, one day they're going to land on the wrong person.
Yeah, they're going to push the wrong person. Yeah, I
the
agree.
wrong person. But that can no longer happen because even if they do land on the wrong person, now this wrong person's like, fuck, am I really going to risk my whole life just to smack this fucking idiot?
Because that's the problem. I mean, I had an incident, pardon me, at the Costco. The Costco. I was over to the Costco with the wife. I was at Costco. I don't know how long ago, a couple of months ago, whatever. And I was having a good day. It was a good day. It was right after work. I had a good show. The weather was nice. The traffic was nice and smooth. I got to Costco. A little bit of a lineup outside, so I got my cart and I got in the lineup. Mm-hmm. And people are going in and we're moving up in the line. And just as I get to the door, here comes Buddy, and he cuts the line, and he makes the mistake of cutting the line right in front of me.
Right.
Yeah, that would have never flown with me.
And I said to him in a very loud voice, "After you, sir, I insist. Please be my guest." And he turned around and he said, "Do I detect a hint of sarcasm?" And I said, "You're fucking right, you do."
Yeah.
Yes.
And the two of us going down that first aisle all the way down to the meat section. And at the end of it, when I left, I had an emotional hangover.
Yeah, I bet.
From being so fucking angry and from yelling at this guy.
Yes.
And people were looking at us.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, for Christ's sake, I know I'm only marginally more famous than a rodeo clown, but I do have a public profile. What if somebody, what if he recognized me and called the radio station and say, "Hey, you know what? Your morning show host called me fat boy," which I did.
Right.
I went from 0 to "fuck you, fat boy" in 2.3 seconds.
But what made him think that it was okay for everybody else to stand in line, but not him.
Well, because
was he
didn't-
special?
Yeah, he is special. Just ask him; he'll tell you. He
That's
just
what I
didn't
mean.
give a shit.
Yeah.
and that makes me angry.
Right, and that deserves a blast of shit, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
although I called my friend Dave afterwards because Dave and I are two peas in a pod. Dave's like me too. He's very quick to anger, and I told him what happened, and he said,
I know.
I know. He said that he's been watching some YouTube videos of some psychologist or something or other, and the guy just says you gotta let it. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Don't let someone else being an asshole ruin your day.
But to me, it's the nerve, right? And it's that vibe of look at all of us in line. All of us, it's like on the Met. I said to you the other day.
Yeah.
We all get into the left lane and we get in line. Not good enough for other people who want to cut in at the last minute.
Yeah. That for the highway entrance?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit move. And I'll admit, I do that all the fucking time, though.
Like once in a while, you get lost or you forget or whatever. That's one thing. Yeah. But this is no.
Well,
I'm not waiting in line. I'm going to save another half second and cut people off.
I only do it when I'm late, when I'm running late.
And this is another thing I have to admit. Since I've been retired and I don't get up at 3:00 in the morning, and I live in BC, I'm like, whatever. Nah. But not with that. With somebody, if I'm standing in line at the Costco,
Rude behavior like that.
What makes you special?
Selfish sense of entitlement.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what you could have done? This is piece of shit level stuff that I pull on people. Is you could have continued demolishing his ankles with the cart. You could have just. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry, sir. I can't see well.
But then that's the kind of person who calls the police and says,
Well, yeah, you see, and I'm thinking to myself, when it was all over, I thought, Christ,
Yeah.
I'm old enough to get a senior's discount at some places. I haven't had a drink in 25 years, and yet I'm flying off the handle.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it, and I'm trying not to do it.
Well, I think social behavior, for whatever reason we've decided or what, haven't decided or whatever theories we've put forward, I think social behavior has gone for a bit of a shit and is getting worse.
Yep.
And, people don't know, how to behave. One of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is Tony Soprano telling the kid at the restaurant to take his fucking hat off. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
I'm going to have to Google that.
Go to YouTube.
YouTube that, yeah.
And type in Tony Soprano baseball hat. And watch Tony, who was in a particular bad mood in this episode, at a nice restaurant, say to the kid, take your fucking hat off. Because that's 1950s, right?
Yeah.
You go to a nice restaurant. A, you don't dress like that, and B, you don't wear a baseball cap at the table.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite scenes. Do that. Let's thank our friends at UPS, shall we? The UPS Store.ca. David Drucker is the man at the head of the Canadian UPS stores that are all across the country. I think there's over 350 locations, or there may be 5 million of them. No, that's not true.
I don't think there's 5 million.
No, there isn't. But
there's a bunch, though.
There's a bunch of them.
You'll find one near you.
Yep, and every corner of the country. And what does the UPS store do? People said to me, those are the guys in the trucks, right? Not really. No. This is, for example, I was in the middle of moving to BC, and we found some stuff that we wanted to send to BC, put it in the car, took it over to the UPS store, and I said to the guy, I got to get this to BC. And he said, okay, bring it over here. Let's unpack that box, and I'm going to pack it up properly for you. And he had the styrofoam packing stuff, and he had the tape, and he had the box, and he had the labels, and he gave me options. It can be there in 2 days. It can be there in 5 days. It was amazing. It was all taken care of. And a few days later, we had our box delivered, everything in good shape. And that's what they do at the UPS store. If you have a business and you're looking to send a fax, you've got a dozen packages you've got to send. You need labels, whatever it is. And the people that own the UPS stores are entrepreneurs themselves, so they understand what you're going through. If you run a small business or you got something for Auntie Clappy in Dildo, Newfoundland.
Or you work from home, which people increasingly do. They've got all they got all your business needs covered.
The UPSstore.ca.
Auntie Clappy?
Every time we do that, I could try and come up with another ant name. And
you haven't used Effie yet.
No. Well, I did.
Oh, did you use Effie?
I did use Effie.
Yeah?
Effie and Herbie. Remember? We talked about that
that's
in one
true,
of the
yeah.
podcasts.
Yeah.
Can we suggest another thing you should watch? Have you seen the George Carlin documentary?
I have not. No.
Is it good?
Netflix?
HBO.
Okay.
So you'll find it on Crave.
I don't have Crave.
Yeah. I like to call it Crave. I don't know why. It's Judd Apatow. Mm-hmm. Judd Apatow, who is the man behind the 40-year-old Virgin and a lot of other very, very funny movies, and is a very, very funny man himself and has a real appreciation for comedy and the history of comedy. He did the documentary on Gary Shandling. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Okay. You
got a good one?
Yeah, you got to Google these things.
Okay.
Gary Shandling's documentary is absolutely fantastic. And the George Carlin one's a two-parter. And it's amazing the effect that George Carlin had on society and generations of comedians. The people that appear in this thing to talk about George Carlin and some of the George Carlin clips that are in this are absolutely astonishing. And it makes you wonder what George Carlin would think if he was alive today.
I read a book about George Carlin, a biography of George Carlin, and I remember and this was a long time ago, but the takeaway I remember from it was that he was very bitter about not being a successful actor. He really wanted to be successful as an actor, and even though he had great success as a comedian, that was I don't know if it was a regret, but there was... I remember coming away thinking to myself, boy, he was bitter about that.
Where did you read? You read this?
Yeah,
in a book?
I read it. It was in a George Carlin biography. I don't remember the name of the book. I don't remember who wrote it, but that really stuck with me. And I found, and this is just an observation, and I loved George Carlin. George Carlin's the reason I got into radio.
Wow.
I used to be able to do those old George Carlin comedy album radio bits off by heart. And my friends and my friends' parents would say, hey, you should be on the radio. But it seemed to me that later in his career, he struck me as angry and bitter. I found he was less funny and more angry, or that a lot of his humor or what he was drawing humor from were things that pissed him off.
Well, that's exactly what happened, but I think in the shade of history, you'll think about it differently. That doesn't come up anywhere in this two-part documentary at all. It's all about the legacy of George Carlin. It's called George Carlin's American Dream, What George Carlin Meant to Me, by Judd Apatow. And it goes all the way back to his childhood. But nowhere does it come up that he was trying to aspire to be an actor or was pissed off about not being an actor.
Well, I'm all I can tell you is that I read a book and that was in the book, and it was a biography about George Carlin.
And he was kind of sort of like a guide through how society changed through the years. And you're right, he did become angry about the world, but he was also kind of prescient about where we were headed. Yeah. And a lot of people were saying, boy, we miss George Carlin. We would love to hear what he would have to say about what things are going on today, including things like the COVID crisis and stuff. Because at one point, they run a clip of George Carlin saying, I'm paraphrasing and I couldn't do it justice, that the planet is fine. It's the fucking people who are the problem. Well, the planet is going to survive.
I've always said that the planet will spit us out long before we can do any lasting damage to her.
That's exactly what George Carlin says. And at one point he looks into the camera and he says, you know what happens to the people? Viruses. And this is like 15 plus years ago. Yeah. Anyway, if you love comedy and you have an appreciation for the history of comedy, and you know who George Carlin is,
of course,
don't you,
yes,
Poseidon?
Of course, I know George Carlin.
There you go.
I love some of his stand-up. I've seen not full stand-ups, but like bits and pieces.
Right.
on YouTube a lot, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, well, you'd love this documentary too. It's called George Carlin's American Dream. It is on Crave. I don't know if you can find it on the YouTubes yet, but I highly recommend it.
One thing about Carlin is, I don't know if you could, and maybe I'm wrong here, you couldn't really buttonhole him politically, eh? He didn't. I mean, he had political opinions, but he was not. He didn't strike me as being neither right nor left. He just called it the way he saw it, and could fall on different sides on different issues.
I think they addressed that in
Oh,
I
yeah?
think Judd Apatow addresses that he really didn't, he's not one way or the other.
Yeah, he wasn't apolitical.
No.
But he,
No.
you couldn't say, oh, well, he's just a Republican or
No.
he's just a bleeding heart liberal.
You'd really relate to it because there's a couple of times where, he talks about not conspiracy, but, the people controlling the levers, the people with their hands on the levers of
Right.
power that you and I have talked about that this week a little bit about, we've been talking about market conditions and
Yeah.
and that's why bologna is $11.
Yeah.
Fuck off. I'm not buying into your bullshit. And if one more person says to me, because of COVID,
Yeah. Well, that's what you've been running into at the hotel, not just on this trip, but in
Yeah.
multiple trips over the last couple of years. You've gotten shitty service you can't get your room clean at the hotel, and they blame COVID.
yeah, and I'm listen. I'm a science guy. I wore a mask. I've been vaxxed. I get triple vaxxed, and I bought into all the marching orders. I did. I thought, yeah, we're going to be safe. Did all the stuff, and I think. And then my wife and I got COVID. We think at Chris Stapleton, from the excuse me, pardon me. People are breathing on you and whatever, and we're pretty sure that's where we got it. But I'm now at the point where the mess at the airports, because of COVID, we don't have people. And experts in the aviation industry are saying the companies should have seen this coming. They should have seen that there was going to be a demand for people to get back on airplanes and want to travel again. And I think a lot of companies figured out, look at all the money we're saving. Well, let's just keep blaming COVID. So hotels that used to have full housekeeping departments, and it wasn't a question when you went to a hotel that your room was going to be clean.
You never had to ask.
You never had to ask for that. You went back in the afternoon, and your room was clean.
Yeah.
Because that's what part of the hospitality service was.
That's part of what you're paying for.
That's what I think. It's not a youth hostel I'm at. So I'm thinking what I believe is in a corner office somewhere, somebody said, well, let's just tell people we can't find people. And we'll make people ask if they want their room cleaned, and we'll save the money. That's what I happen to think that's what's going on. And I know people are going to listen to this and say, oh, you don't understand, Terry. They can't find people to do these things, and nobody can find people. And I know it's hard. There was people sitting at home, and there, not a lot of people want to do these jobs anymore. But I think what's more at play is, I get it, fuel costs have gone up, and people are harder to find and whatever. But I think the companies are like, hey, we'll pocket that dough.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of altruism going on at the top of the corporate ladder.
I don't think. It's like the plastic bag bullshit. I'm not buying into any of that. I know a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear this, but we're going to save the planet because we don't have plastic bags anymore. We don't. The Walmart near my house, Walmart famously has gone plastic bag free since April 22nd. But you can buy a plastic bag for $1.60.
Oh, you can?
Sure you
Oh,
can.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. There you go.
That's crazy.
I think it's all bullshit. I as well. I worked as a janitor for about 2 weeks, and I remember when I went to the first time I went to go do the round of the garbage, right? Garbage, recycling, all this. They gave me the thing to throw everything in, and I'm like, okay, so this is just for the garbage, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, where's the one for the recycling? Because there was 4 different bins. Where's the one for the recycling, just papers? Where's the one for just plastics, cans, and all this? And they're like, what are you talking about? I go, well, there's 4 different bins. I got to throw them into 4 different. They look at me like I was a crazy person. I'm like, are you insane, bro? Just throw everything in the garbage.
It all goes in the garbage.
It's
There you
all,
go. So
it's all show.
It's a show.
Yeah.
It's a show. It's
Yeah.
theater, in my opinion.
Well, it went from
The best is paper straws and plastic wrappings.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, paper straws and plastic wrappings, which goes through a plastic lid onto a plastic cup.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm not the old guy looking out the window who believes everything is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that there's a lot of altruism going on in corporate headquarters.
No, you know what I've come around on, and this is another corporate money saver, but I've come around on it. Self-checkout.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Fuck you." I'm not going to bag my own groceries or products or whatever. You know, that's I'm the customer. I demand service. And then I saw how quickly I could get through.
Well, this is the trick.
Yeah.
Right? This is the trick. Don't schedule real people to work the caches, which increases the lineup, which makes the self-checkout more attractive. Like, I know it's not a conspiracy, but don't tell me they haven't had that discussion. Make the lineups long and annoying so people will want to go over there and check out their own groceries.
Also, I had an issue with one of the checkout guys at Costco. What's your fucking problem? Attitude. Like big attitude. A kid, eh? Like, I don't know, 20 years old or so. Big ass attitude.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to be friendly to him. How you doing today? I'm all right.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're all right? Because you don't seem to be.
Yeah.
No one's all right anymore, Ted.
I guess not, eh?
Call me when you get social skills.
I'm
We'll have a chat.
gonna stop being friendly. You know what? If I try that down east and people are arseholes, then I'll know it's all over.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's.
You know where people are still nice?
Where?
Quebec City.
Really?
They are, eh?
'Cause I had to go to Quebec City numerous times.
Working with Mike?
That and
your
my
girlfriend's
girlfriend.
there.
there you go.
Yeah.
So every time I think the first few times I went there and we were walking around old Quebec, people, men, women, old, young, they would say hello, they would bonjour, they would smile. And this was a lot of people. And at first when I went there, I'm like, what the fuck these people telling me hello for? I want to get smacked.
What are they up to?
And my girlfriend had to be like, calm down.
Yeah.
This is how people are here. And even the customer service, for the most part, 95% of the interactions I've had in customer service, amazing.
Nice. Well,
unless you're a black person. No, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's not.
I think that part of that in Quebec City, because I've experienced that too, part of that is they know where their bread is buttered, right? Quebec City is a big tourist attraction.
Yes.
And they know you got to be nice if people come back. And I've experienced the same thing in British Columbia. People in British Columbia, first couple of weeks I was there when I was on my walk, people approach you and they say, "Good morning, beautiful afternoon, eh?"
Yeah.
And for the first couple of days I was like, yes. Because it took me a while to realize. Same thing at a store, you know.
Neighbors waving.
Yeah, neighbors waving.
I was like, what the fuck are they waving at?
Yeah, cashiers asking you.
You're like the guy at Costco, and that might have been the thing. He might have thought, what's this guy's game asking me how my day is?
What do you want from me?
Yeah, really, eh?
Let's say hi to our friends at Merson. Speaking of not a corporation, a family-run
time,
business.
yeah.
This,
and you know,
this is what I loved about the Mersons all these years.
Now that the COVID's over and all, for the most part, their waiting room is open again, so people will wait for their car, and that's where you really get to see.
Are the big leather couches back?
Not the last time I was there. It was still just chairs, spaced chairs. But it's only a matter of time till the big leather couches that you can fall asleep on come back.
Yeah, you could find me there when my car was being worked on.
Yeah, you sink right into those things. But this is where you find out what the Mersons are all about. Because if you just sit there and observe, you'll see the service manager come from the back. It's Mark now, by the way. Mm-hmm. Mark will come from the back and he'll say, "Mr. Hasenfratz, okay, we looked at your car. We got your summer tires on. You've probably got half a season left in those, so you might want to come back and see us, end of July at the latest. We looked at your brakes. Your brakes are fine. You're good for at least another year with the brakes. You don't hear that a whole lot at garages. What you usually hear is, oh boy, yeah, those tires, man, I wouldn't drive on those. Oh, really? Eh? Yeah, we're going to have to sell you some new ones. That's going to run you. You don't get that at the Merson ever.
Yeah.
At the Merson? At the Mersons, there's more than one.
Yeah. Family. It's a family-run business.
Yeah.
There's the Mersons there.
You want to go see them on St. Jacques west of Cavendish, online at mersonauto.com. They're known for tires, but they are a full-service garage. Whatever you need in terms of maintenance and repairs, the Mersons can take care of it for you. If you have an issue that they cannot address, they will send you somewhere where it will be addressed, again, by people who have the same honesty and integrity as the Mersons. And I know that because they've sent me to a couple of different places, and I was well satisfied both times.
And while we're on the topic of family-run businesses, I'm going to take a moment to tell you about Laboner, who are another one of our sponsors. And listen, I get it. Commercials, giant pain in the butt, right? But that's the way the podcast happens. That's with the support of these people who have said to us, you know what, we fully support you guys. We want you guys to do the podcast. We'd be happy to be a sponsor, and that's the reaction we got from all of the people who proudly sponsor the podcast, and we can't thank them enough because we can't do it without them. Laboner is a mattress store. They're sleep specialists, and they're family run. They've been family run since their inception all of those years ago. They opened their very first store years and years ago on Gouin Boulevard in Saint Genevieve. That store is still there. The original store is still there. And you'll get the kind of welcome in that store that you will at any of their 18 locations around the greater Montreal area. You're welcomed with a smile in the official language of your choice, with a well-mannered person who will ask you a couple of questions about what you're looking for and how they can help you. And then they'll leave you alone. They won't pressure you, because I don't know about you, but I don't like being followed around a store. You going to buy this? You going to buy this? You want that? That's not what happens at Laboner. And you can shop online, and because you listen to the podcast, they're offering up a promo code, TER05 or TED05. That's TER05 or TED05. 5% off whatever you buy. On sale, regular price, online, in-store, doesn't matter. Mention the code, they'll give you the 5% off. They will talk to you about a better night's sleep, but the kind of mattress you want, the kind of mattress you can afford, and they don't want you to sleep better. That's what that family's been doing. Quebec owned, Quebec run for all of these years. Matlabonheur.ca.
Let's do one more tweet sheet before we go. Go out on a high note. What do you say?
Alrighty.
Okay, what do you got there? Get those lined up, Poseidon?
Give me a second.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll give you a second.
Sure. Today I've been riddled with
Technical issues.
Yeah,
what's going on?
I don't
cameras
know.
having a mind of their own.
There's gremlins in the thing. By the way, while we're waiting for that to come up, let me just mention at the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about Clint Hill, who was the Secret Service agent assigned to President Kennedy when he was killed. The book that I loved, I absolutely highly recommend. This would be a great summer read. Is called Mrs. Kennedy and Me, and it's a book that was released in 2012. It's not a new book, but it's a wonderful, wonderful book, and it's just a terrific chronicle of. He was assigned to Mrs. Kennedy. He was Mrs. Kennedy's Secret Service agent for many, many years. And even after the president was killed. He's also written other books called My Travels with Mrs. Kennedy, 5 Days in November. But the book I was referring to is Mrs. Kennedy and Me. Highly recommend it.
Some of the funny from Twitter before we head out from @Sir Eviscerate. My favorite time to watch SportsCenter is 3 to 4 a.m. The new guys are trying out catchphrases, saying shit like, he really crammed that in dry, and the co-anchor has to say, Steve, no. From what's that say? Awkward and Odd.
Yeah.
You don't know what fun is until you've witnessed a drunk on the Edinburgh to Glasgow train screaming, I fucking hate hedgehogs. Come at me, ya wee jabby cunt, while angrily circling a hairbrush that's been dropped on the floor.
You gotta say that in the accent though.
That's true.
I fucking hate hedgehogs.
There you go. Come at me, ya jabby wee cunt. And from at Keat Potato, walking to car from dog training with wife. Me, I can't believe they taught the dog to speak. This is a dog shotgun. Me, motherfucker. Oh, yeah, the Twitter is funny.
Keat Potato.
Keat Potato.
Well,
yeah.
what you're saying, Ted, about Twitter? It's the best.
It's the best and the worst of everything.
It
yeah,
really is.
Yeah. It's just it's chock-a-block with good humor and with arseholes.
I like the term arseholes.
It is a good term.
Yeah, it can be a criticism and yet wonderfully endearing.
It can be endearing. Yeah.
Stupid arse. That seems to be the end of this podcast.
That's this episode in the can.
Poseidon, thank you.
My pleasure, gentlemen, as always.
We don't spend enough time saying, I know in the first 2 seasons we never shut up about them, but Pantelis and Mike Ward and Poseidon and the people in this building have been so unbelievably kind to us. And make sure the podcast gets all the whizzles and bizzles and ends up on the interweb and the Spotify and
all the rest of the stuff that we don't have a clue about.
That's right. Yeah. Wherever you get your podcasts, as we like to say.
Spotify, Apple, Pantelis Comedy YouTube channel.
Right. We put it up on the link tree there, Ted.
Yes, we do. Yeah. So you keep an eye out for that, why don't you?
Okay, bye.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval, where the luxury is unmistakably British, but nobody wears a top hat or a monocle.